Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, and this is the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting for the School District of Waukesha Board of Education. Can I first verify that the meeting has been properly posted?
Yes.
Thank you. Our first item of business is to seek approval of the T&L minutes from the February 3rd meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Koenig. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes 5-0. We do have an opportunity for public comment. Did anyone sign up this evening?
No.
Okay, thank you. We will move right into our content areas, and we have a number of resources up for discussion tonight. So beginning with mathematics, discussion on the AP statistics resource.
Yeah, so tonight, like you said, we have several content areas, and so we'll just go through them. Tonight joining us is Leslie Waltz and Laura Ryan. As Laura Ryan gets started, she's going to share a little bit of an overview of just AP in general, how we've incorporated that into our resource renewal timeline, which is leading to some of the work that's being brought forward tonight. So we'll kick it off with AP statistics with these two. Do you want me to pull it up?
Sorry. Technical difficulties. I can't get rid of the box. The what?
She did, yeah, the
Yeah.
start mirroring button. Yep, it's just not clicking.
I can, do you want me to pull it up?
Hold on, let me just try to disconnect and reconnect.
All right.
There we go. Good evening. Sorry about that. So as you're aware, we have been doing kind of an AP audit over the past 3 years. And tonight, we are here to propose renewal of our renewal or adoption of, I believe, our last 3 AP courses. So tonight, you will hear presentations on AP Statistics, AP Biology, and AP US History. So I think that will keep us up to date then for a good, let's say, hopefully 5 to 10 years on our other AP courses, with the exception of our proposal for the new AP Business course next year. There are basically 3 reasons why we have to update an AP course. The first is the College Board recommends that we do update our resources every 10 years. Sometimes it is a little before that if there are changes to the course, if College Board makes changes to the course framework or the exams, we might also have to update our curriculum and our resources at that time. And if our digital subscription is up, it's oftentimes another reason for our renewal. So in the board docs, you have access to all 3 course CEDs, the course exam descriptions. So you have full access to all of those AP course frameworks. We didn't want to print them out as they're like over 200 pages for each of them. So each of the following presentations are really going to follow the exact same format. We will be back in May to provide a completed course outline for you, cost details for you. From the publishers, and then to talk about proposal of that renewal at that time. This first one with AP Statistics, I'll talk briefly about the first couple slides. You have seen them before, but then when I get into the following presentations, I'll kind of skip over those comment slides. So Leslie and I are here to talk about AP Statistics. And just a quick review of AP philosophies here, and then how they give us required content. The purpose is to be academically challenging, and this course is an optional course of many that we offer in the math curriculum. Again, college level work that students in high school can earn college credit from. For each of these courses, the College Board does provide us a course framework, an outline basically, the units of study that must be covered, and they also give us sample exams, questions, multiple choice questions, essay writing prompts, and access to their AP classroom, their digital platform that provides all of that as well. So again, those three will be common throughout the three presentations. Specifically, if we take a look at a 5-year AP data for statistics, you can see all the numbers here of the students who are enrolled. We stayed pretty consistent over the last 2 years. When we look at our passing rate, I think that Leslie and I have really deemed we have room for improvement. And College Board has recognized that as well, as they have made some changes, which Leslie will speak to really narrow the focus so students can spend and teachers can spend more time on less items. They've decreased the number of units. We've also had a turnover in teachers in some of the buildings, which sometimes it does take a year or two to rebuild that program. I will let Leslie take over from here.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the timeline. The AP statistics course has been offered in Wisconsin since 1996. Our record shows that in around 2012, we started offering it in the district, and the last time that we revised the textbook was 2020. So we got a license for 6 years, and so we are seeking to renew our licenses but get an updated resource. And it seems to be perfect timing because AP is redoing their AP statistics course entirely, starting next year. So the test for next year will have the changes, and it's really a good timing. At the beginning, we knew that these changes were coming, and our resource was not offering these updates yet. And so our teachers were saying, maybe we need to extend for one more year. We really don't want to adopt a new resource that does not have these changes. And the publisher heard, probably not only from us, that we were not willing to take their 7th edition because it would not have the changes, and they accelerated and got ready to release the 8th edition, which does have all the changes into the AP course, which is really perfect timing for us. So some of the updates that AP is making to, College Board is making to AP statistics is that they are now reducing the number of units from 8 to 5. They are making it so that it aligns with introductory college statistic courses. They are doing some exam revisions, which are on the square off to the right. They are increasing their multiple choice questions by 2, but all of their multiple choice questions used to have 5 possible answers, and they're reducing that to 4. I am sure students will appreciate that. And they used to have 6 free response questions, and they are now going down to 4. So they're reducing a little bit of the test. Each question will have more point value, but it'll be less questions for students to answer. They also are adding topics on investigative questions, and the next slide we'll talk a little bit about that. And they're making it also, they're removing the calculus from the statistics in these units that they removed so that more students can access it before they finish all their core courses in math. So regarding the topics on investigative questions, as you probably know, statistics is all about asking the right question and being able to look at the data and answer all those questions to gain information and patterns and predictive values. So they have emphasized a lot in the new AP course, these investigative questions, and the resource that we are looking at is also adding that in. So that's something that they're adding into the exam. Like I mentioned before, for the process, we were very satisfied with BFW's Practice of Statistics, 6th edition, which is what we have been using. And we knew that our licenses were expiring, and we really did not need to look at any other publisher. We knew that this had what we needed. The teachers appreciate all the extra resources they have for the students, but we knew that we needed an edition that would include the changes that AP is making, the College Board is making to the test. So Thankfully, BFW is releasing their 8th edition, which is why you don't have a paper copy. It is still being printed right now. It should be out in April, and it'll match perfectly with the changes that they are making. Teachers really appreciate that there are a lot of practice tests. There are lecture notes. There are quizzes. It's very user-friendly. As I have been studying it, I find it really easy to understand. It's engaging. I want to keep reading it. And it seems like a good resource for students.
And I believe you do have digital access to the text, the full access to the
You do,
text.
yeah. The units, the 5 units that are in the textbook match perfectly with the 5 units in the AP test. At the end of every unit, there are some practice quizzes, and students can go in and use it. We would be pursuing physical textbooks and a digital license, so students have options how they prefer to study the materials. Teachers appreciate using AP Classroom as a supplement. They can look at past year FRQs. They can give students videos. If they didn't do well in an assessment, they can say, go into AP Classroom and look at these videos, which will give you more information, and they can follow up with formative data to support students throughout the school year. That's an example of Unit 1. Right away, they get into practical examples, which is really what the statistics class is going to be about. It is about understanding what the data is saying and making sense of it. So immediately they get into practical examples that students can relate to, such as if the students decide to go out for lunch during their lunchtime, and they randomly select by flipping a coin if they should go through the drive-through or if they should go into the restaurant. And then they time how long it takes. And after a certain number of times, what is statistically the better option for them to make it back into class? That's the kind of examples that they get kids right into, which is very engaging, gets them right into the heart of what statistics is.
Some of the things the statistics team is still working on is finalizing costs of both the digital and the physical text. We're looking at probably decreasing our licenses by 50 or so for
Yes.
next year. And then also finalizing a course outline that would follow the 5 units of study that the CED outlines. So we can open it to questions now.
Okay. I will start. Well, do you have one?
I didn't want to go first.
We'll go first. I'm not supposed to go first, so you can go first. Mrs. Koslowski.
Thank you. Just a couple of things I just want to ask. So the success scores or the achievement that we've seen and across years using this same material, and yet we're going to renew the same material. Do we think we're going to see an improvement in the scores? And part of the second part to that, to caution, is, are we lowering the standards to make sure that they can pass an AP exam?
I would say that College Board is narrowing the focus of the exam to match the equivalent of a one-semester college exam. So somehow what they had before, the 8 units we're going beyond what an introductory statistics course would have for college students. So I'm thinking they're adjusting rather than lowering the bar. I see what you're saying about renewing a resource, knowing that the data has not been as good. But I think that I can be confident that by narrowing the focus and allowing the teachers to go through the course a little bit slower, my daughter took it in her last year of high school, and it was very fast-paced because they also have to be done with everything by May in order to take the exam. So by lowering the number of units, I believe that they will have more time to dedicate and really get students to understand the material better.
No, that's great. And I think your distinction on it's equivalent to a semester college course.
Correct.
Matters versus a year-round statistics course, which is
Correct.
what I took.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because I think I asked Leslie, or you'll see actually kind of very similar changes in the AP US history. One is as well, like less to focus deeper. And as you were talking, Leslie, I even wrote myself a note, like these are very similar changes that ACT just made as well, where they decreased the choices and numbers. So I think it's what we're seeing.
Great, nope, that was it, thank you.
Mr. Zenobia?
Where are our students taking the the course at? I mean, what have they taken? What grade is it? 11th, 12th, or where are they at? And
That is a great
does it
question.
have some effect on scores? And
That is a great question. I did some studying of it last summer. I was studying seniors and what math courses they were taking. And many times seniors who want to take a math course will choose either to take AP Statistics or a more advanced calculus course. If they don't want to take something they consider as rigorous, they might take pre-college math, which is preparing them for placement tests. But many students do choose statistics. As I was preparing for tonight, though, I was noticing that some of our more advanced students that come in from our compacted pathways might be taking AP Statistics as early as their 10th or 11th grade. So it really varies, and they can take it concurrently with some of our core courses, which is also something that College Board is suggesting that it should happen now that they have removed some of the calc-based statistics from it.
Okay, I have a couple questions. One was kind of related to Carrie's, but just with the only having one resource with the changes, it's just that making a long-term commitment to a brand-new resource does leave me with a little pause. I think aligning the resource to the new test is important, so I guess we just need to kind of contemplate what those trade-offs look like from a cost-benefit perspective. I laugh when I think with psychology too, like the multiple choice went from 5 to 4, and they're doing that more and more and more. So I feel like that should be a question on the stats test, like what is probability of guessing the right answer
Right.
when you reduce the number of choices. But I think that means they also will end up having to score the test a little bit differently because it does forgive guessing a little bit more than if there were 5, but probably allows them to write better questions. So I don't really have an opinion about that, but it just means that the scoring is probably going to change. And so I like the idea of moving as fast as we can to an aligned resource, but I'm also a little bit nervous about like there's only one. And so they're maybe wise to be ahead of the curve on getting that out there, but we don't really have anything to compare it to. The performance that our students have on the test, I looked at that a little bit. I mean, we're actually just slightly below the national average, so I don't think it's that bad.
But we would like it to be
Better, yep. And I will maybe not bring this up with all the other AP conversations, but I still do struggle with the percentage of students that are taking the class versus those who are taking the test. And I've said this before, I feel very strongly that if you're not taking the test, you probably shouldn't be getting the weighted grade. So we may need to talk more about that because I think we should encourage the students to take the test. And I think that also helps us understand what their learning is and how we perform as a district in providing these courses. So I know that not everybody's going to agree with me on that, but when we only have 100 or so that are registered, we want to be able to offer a quality product, and having half of the students not taking the test is really, or, you know, not in this particular case, but a percentage that don't take it is really not helping us. So I would wonder why someone's taking, and we have other statistics level course or the quantitative analysis type thing.
Quantitative reasoning.
So I just have generally, questions about why are we taking AP classes if not for credit recovery? Obviously, there's challenging aspects and all the other stuff, but I didn't need credit recovery, but for college credit. So this is one of those, but I think our performance is okay. I think we could do better. And I think, to Anthony's point, probably our students who have a little bit more math under their belt may be performing a little better. The other thing that's interesting about this course is what rated a little bit higher than others in terms of how many colleges are actually providing credit for a passing score. And so for kids who are going into the sciences who may be required to take statistics, but not the more rigorous math than maybe some of the engineering programs are, this might often be a better bet than even like a Calc BC, even if they're really great at math. So I can't
I
believe I'm
agree.
saying that, but I think it's a valuable course. So we should do what we can to support it with a great resource. But coming full circle, I'm still just a little uneasy about jumping right into a brand new resource for a brand new structure of a test and curriculum that we haven't had any experience with. So I guess we'll kind of take your guidance on that when we see the whole cost proposal.
We did notice that no other resource was being offered right now that had access to these changes.
Yeah.
And so that makes us favor this one.
Yeah, which is unfortunately another problem with AP, right? So, I want to offer AP courses to our students, but we're really kind of tied to what they're making available to us. And we're obligated to purchase an aligned resource, and we're obligated to follow their guidance, so.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, obligated is the right choice, but what we find with the BFW publisher is they are perfectly aligning their textbooks with the CEDs. And so what it's doing is it's making it much easier for our teachers then to provide instruction around specifically aligned to the College Board. And so that's why our teachers are gravitating towards those texts, for sure.
So when we buy AP-approved resources, there wouldn't be any need for teachers to be seeking out resources anyplace else?
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially in addition, in conjunction with the AP classroom.
I would agree.
Okay. Anything else? I'm not seeing any other questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's one of those nights.
Laura's
Okay.
going to stay up here all night,
Little
so.
Science,
One of those nights.
statistics to biology, my day job.
Okay, now I gotta.
So give us a minute as Laura transitions to the next subject.
Costume change. Okay. Erica and I are here to talk about AP Biology. Very similar to a lot of what you've just heard. A little bit different is, I think, the current textbook they're using is from 2015, so it's been over 10 years, and there are also some changes to the CED as well. So again, we'll just skip over the 7 principles of AP. We know that it's college credit, can get college credit, and skip right to the 5-year AP data for AP Bio. If you look here, one piece that's missing is I did just look up how many we have enrolled this year. And this year we have 121 students enrolled, so a little bit of an increase from last year for sure. And then you can see the number who took the test and the scoring there. One thing Erica and I noticed is that we are consistently above the national average, which is usually around 60% ish there. Oops, sorry. And Erica, you can take it from here.
Right. So we were looking to see when we brought AP Biology to Waukesha. I learned that it was actually one of the original 10 AP classes that existed in the 1950s. I spoke with Sue and I was like, do we have any records to see what we had for classes back then? Turns out we don't. So we're just going to operate on, yep, we were the first and we started using it back in the 1950s too. So, like I said, we had a new textbook in 2015, and they've made minor revisions throughout, but nothing major. But we want to make sure that we're keeping up to date, and obviously with sciences and AP, they do require that 10-year updated resource. So we decided to kind of go look to see what we could find. The updates that College Board made, they expanded the ecology unit a little bit, and instead of having these really specific questions about genetic disorders, they really just wanted to get more of the general concept and conceptual understandings around it, and moved their quantitative questions to multiple choice instead of doing the full math problem and having to show your work and do that. It was moved only to multiple choice for that, and then they reduced the number of free response questions. So nothing major, just some slight changes. our process began last year, and we knew the changes were going to be coming over the summer. So we came together as a team, looked at the resource we are currently using, and then sent teachers to the AP Institute to get more information about the changes and what College Board was recommending for a resource. The biggest recommendation from other teachers at the Institute as well as College Board was the resource that we are currently using, just the updated version. So our teachers felt that they really enjoyed the resource that they were using, and since College Board was still recommending it, we went through the research and selection process to confirm our choices, and we decided that we wanted to stick with our current resource, just the updated version. So that is Biology in Focus, the Campbell. This is an actual AP-aligned resource as well. In science, you'll have two camps. One is the traditional college textbook, or the AP-aligned version. AP supports either. Our AP Chemistry and AP Physics use the college textbook, where biology, because the content is so big, they prefer the AP-aligned to kind of narrow that focus of what that content is in the book. The best part about this resource, though, is the Mastering Biology digital platform, and it is the same platform we use for our AP Bio and AP Chem, so the students who have taken those classes are familiar with it. They have study modules, they have study prep, they have AI tools, and that's just from the student side. From the teacher side, there's a lot of assessments and then things that they can do to help students and get a better understanding of where they are. What I really like about this one is they have the problem-solving exercises built in, as well as like the idea of building towards this conceptual understanding, not just memorizing of facts, which is how the AP test is designed. Same with AP Stats. AP Classroom is an amazing resource for our teachers and our students to not only understand what they should be teaching, but as students to have study help or other things that they might need to go get extra support. There's ways for other teachers to connect on AP Classroom. And honestly, as a parent, I've used it with my own student to be like, what are you supposed to be studying in this class? So I can go on and log on with them as well to get resources. So this is just an example of Unit 1. How this book is designed is they start with a unit opener, a phenomenon that they're investigating, and they have sample instructional activities that the teachers can use. Unlike some of the other AP Science courses, there are not any required labs. They have suggestions for what students and teachers can do, but there's no lab manual that's required. But they do provide those essential knowledge and skills that are tied to the AP test.
So similar, some work that's left to be done is to finalize numbers of what we need to purchase, finalize costs, and finalize aligning our course outlines to the CED, to their units at a glance. Anything else?
Nope.
So we can open that to questions.
Questions about biology?
You still get to go first.
Mrs. Koenig.
I think you mentioned it for AP Stats, that there was some turnover the last few years. Where do we stand with the biology, AP Biology? Are a lot of the same teachers still teaching this course, for a few years now, or?
Actually, no, we've had some fairly consistent change over the last few years in AP Biology.
Okay.
We just hire really amazing people.
Okay, great. All right.
They are.
Mr. Brooks.
Can you just give me a couple examples of the AI-powered study tools that are available to the students? Like, what does that look like?
It's more of like, so if they are working and they're answering questions, if they realize that if the program is like, oh, you didn't get that one right, it can pop them back to where they need to be. Or there is some of like the chat features of like, if they answer a question, it can give that feedback to them.
How much of the biology, and maybe AP is different, but our biology curriculum and health curriculum are aligned or coordinated?
Our grade level biology class that they take in freshman year.
Yeah.
It's mostly the the basis and foundational knowledge so that they can succeed in AP biology. So this is like above and beyond what they would get in their general. So they learn about ecology, they learn about genetics at the grade level, and then the AP is just that next step up, that college level.
So it looks like late in the text, and I think it's late in the curriculum, is like the human growth and development component. So an AP biology student is taking this maybe as an upper.
It's
That's
traditionally
then
junior,
probably-
seniors. Some of our sophomores who are accelerated and are taking multiple science classes would take it then, but it's generally a junior or senior class.
And they're also taking regular biology.
Yes.
Yeah. So how much of that content is covered already? Because you're in health, you're in regular biology, and then you're taking AP biology. Like, are we coordinating, or are we just going with the AP?
I would say most of it is not covered in their general biology
Okay.
class. This really is a whole level up of the content. Whereas like our physics, it's AP Physics 1 and traditional physics have very similar content. This is a whole different level.
Okay.
And even less would be covered in the ninth grade health class, I think.
Because it's covered in biology, or?
They don't go as far in depth as an AP biology would.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Right.
So next steps, same, back in May, and we'll look at,
Yep, so you should have the resource, both digital and hard copy. So we'll
Yeah.
be back.
Yeah, working on finalizing course outline, working on finalizing costs and numbers.
Mike.
The syllabus, right? So I can understand what's being taught. And I think that just got me to what Dr. Piasek was seeking when it comes to like the sections in this that are human growth and development. That is a separate approved functional curriculum. Like, I want to see what we're teaching and when we're teaching it. Right?
Of course.
That's where I'm trying to get you. It's just taking a long time to get it out. But that's coming next month, or is that?
Yep, it'll be with that.
Okay. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you bump up?
I'll be back.
Staying with science and then coming back to high school.
But I get to stay.
So we're going to switch, we're going to stay on science, and we're going to switch to elementary now.
All right, so we are in the process of going through the curricular review for elementary science. We are actually the first group to get to go through the whole new process that was created. So I get to be your guinea pigs. You'll see how this goes. We are looking to renew the science curriculum for all of our face-to-face elementary school, kindergarten through fifth grade. So half of our students here will be affected by this change. Currently, we have teacher-created resources. It was myself and a group of teachers, and we've updated it throughout the years. We made sure that we were aligned to the best practices as best we could. But again, you know, we're teachers and humans, not publishers. So we are excited for the opportunity to get something that has been aligned to our standards. We also, at this point, only have K-1 dual language students using the same units as us, as grades 2 through 5 are using their BOOF for their biliteracy unit framework for there. So we're excited for all of us to be aligned K-6. This work started last year as well, where we brought a team together to start investigating what resources existed, what is available for elementary science, what everyone around us is doing, and I was able to work with the DPI elementary science curriculum committee as well to kind of understand like where are we in the state for elementary science, and it is all over the board. We're really lucky that here in Waukesha, science is incredibly supported. In many places, you'll see it for like 10 minutes a day in elementary, whereas it is a significant portion of our curriculum here. So we're really excited to start to get into that process. We have a committee of teachers now, 2 per grade level from across the district. We tried to make sure that we had at least a few dual language teachers, people from a variety of buildings, so that we could get a good scope of what we're doing. So what we looked at was a bunch of different resources, and what we are looking at right now is the Open SciEd curriculum, which is actually an open source curriculum, meaning that the curricular resources itself are free and through the public, and it was created through the National Research Foundation, their Science Foundation's grants. And then we're looking and comparing it to what our current curriculum is. What we are then also needing to understand is where are we going to provide the resources, the kits, the materials for all the investigations. Those are the companies that we're looking at, both Pasco and Activate Learning. And also both those companies provide teacher portals. Some of the other companies that offer the kits and the materials, they just ship you boxes of science kits and that's it. So we are really happy with both Pasco and Activate Learning because they have this nice organized teacher portal to help support our teachers. So you should have digital access to that as well. So looking at a few other districts around us, mystery science is something you'll see often, which is truly just videos online that the teacher can show and then they talk about them. FOSS is a similar, we used to have FOSS here. It's a similar idea of the Open SciEd, where you have this investigative process, you have science investigations that go with it. And then Carolina Building Blocks is more of a traditional textbook reading curricular resource. Because the literacy resource that we use, the benchmark, is so knowledge building, what's really wonderful is that these will then tie together so that they're learning about the plants and animals and their literacy from that content, that reading lens, and the science then can provide the hands-on investigation and studying with the science skills around it. So they go really well together. For our review process, we wanted to make sure that we were reviewing the resources using the tools that both NGSS, which is our science standards, recommend, as well as our DPI instructional resource review tool. So we use that EQUIP rubric to review FOSS, mystery science, all the things that are out there, and Open SciEd continued to be the one that really was hitting all of the marks that they ask of a science curriculum. We are in the process of piloting the units using the Pasco and Activate science tools and trying these units through Open SciEd. The teachers are really, really loving them. They're like, this is new and it's hard work, but they're really excited about it because the students, the conversations they're having are unbelievable. The vocabulary they're using, they're having like really good discussions about science, not just learning facts about plants. Like I can label a stem and a leaf, but they're really digging into like deeper meaning of the topics, which has been really fun to see. For example, our first grade classroom that I'm in right now at Prairie, their unit is about light waves, but it's about reading under the covers in the dark. Why can you read under the covers under a blanket? Not as easily as under a sheet. And so they're learning about opaque and transparent and translucent, but in an application that makes sense to them. So our next steps then are to continue going through these resources. We're going to use that resource review tool to compare both the Activate Learning and the Pasco tools. We'll go through budgets, understanding like how much these kits are going to cost, how do we get them here, how are we going to roll this out with teachers and PD. You know, we want to make sure that we support everyone through that process, especially knowing that this is not the first new thing they've had in the last few years. So we wanted to wait till this time was right. So we're going to spending our time right now kind of rolling out that plan. So we'll come back in May after you've had some time to look through these units and resources and talk about the budget and our plan moving forward.
Okay, you first.
Remind me again on the kits. I think we had the same conversation at the high school level when it came to the labs, right? So this is like the renewable every year based on,
Yes, and so they get the non-consumable kits, so all the equipment comes, and then there is a small consumables they have to purchase, but these kits are designed to not have as many consumable items in it for the elementary level. Most of them are things like Post-its, or there might be some clay that they have to purchase, but we have that built into our building budgets for the science resources. It's already there for what they're doing now. And there's other things like fifth grade has to create a terrarium every year where they use isopods, but luckily we breed those at our environmental ed center, so we get to save money by distributing those through our program. So there's a small amount of renewable things, but most of them are just our non-consumable kits.
no, I love it. And I mean, in elementary, the hands-on is so important, and hearing their excitement just actually makes me excited. I'd go back. So, thank you.
Other questions? Mrs. Koenig?
Thank you. I think you said currently, the current curriculum is more based around standards and kind of teacher curated types of things. Tell me a little bit more, how is the open SciEd different than that? What is it like? Can you just give me a little bit more information about the open SciEd?
It's basically what we wish we could have done. We tried to make,
Okay.
we just didn't have the capacity
What
to
is it
do.
composed of, like videos, like what? how
Nope,
does it
so
look
it's
like?
basic, how it starts is as an anchoring phenomena, so it's an activity where they do an experience and they build context. So for the first grade unit, they literally went to the library and they sat under tables some had blankets, some had a clear sheet, and some had a regular bed sheet. And they were like, okay, which one was it easier to read under? Why was it easier to read under? Let's figure this out. And then they do maybe some reading, and then they do some investigations, and they have to build a model. So you have these little sixth graders drawing light waves, and like, where did the light waves go? Did it stop? Did it absorb? Did it go through? And they keep kind of spiraling around that same content and that same idea until they build a better model to understand what's happening with those light waves.
Okay, so then when you said they do some reading and investigating, where do they find that information? Is that part
It's
of?
all part of that, yep.
Okay, so there are resources
Yep.
like within there.
There's
questions
storybooks,
and-
there's all those, and what's
Okay.
nice is they provide scripts for the teachers too, with questions and responses they might get to help them walk them through that process.
Okay.
And those are two of the things in the board packet that we sent that you can go in and look
Got
and
it,
see
okay.
what the teachers would be viewing in both of those options.
Sounds exciting, okay.
It has slides, everything, it's all completely done for them, and in Spanish.
Yes.
That's great, that's great, okay, thank you.
So my question is, have we, what have we done to kind of benchmark where our high performers are in the district? And I'm specifically looking at, when we talked about the forward exam scores, noted that Meadowbrook's second grade science proficiency was upwards of 90%. Compared to a statewide average of 50 and a district average of 55. So we're actually doing okay. But that's not new this year. So it's been in the 80s with Meadowbrook for a while. Are we learning what's working there and bringing that forward? And we have several other schools that I would say, in the mid 60s or so that are doing well. But what are we doing,
I
and
mean,
how do we preserve that? 'Cause I don't wanna
Meadowbrook
wreck it.
scores well on all the assessments, right? They're doing well there. So we do look and we study together and we get teachers together for professional development where they're sharing together what they're doing in the classroom and sharing where it's working. We are in a good spot that, right, our forward results do look really well. But one of the hard things about our current science is that there is a lot of load on the teachers. So in some places, there might be some people who are able to take maybe a little bit more time in planning or different teachers taking that on. So that's one of the nice things about the resources that we're looking at, is we feel like it'll help some of that teacher load of having to curate and kind of pull from this or that. And so we have some Meadowbrook, we have a representative from Meadowbrook too. So it's nice to be able to have people from our schools that, are doing a little bit better, being able to give input about what is happening and what they're doing at their schools.
Yeah, and it's hard with data because they only take the forward for science in 4th and 8th grade. So it's hard for us to see, is it growth data? Are they coming in there? So we can look at, the longitudinal data, it's just not cohort. But yeah, it is, we are above state average, which is nice. We're slowly increasing. And I think the fact that we're going to have the alignment between benchmark and our science curriculum will really help.
I think that's big. I think we saw that with our elementary social studies, with what I really liked about the impact series. And I think that's what science is. It's like a representation of how reading and math are going and then how they're coming together at the grade level. So it's a good reflection of that. I would say for like STEM, Summit View, Prairie, Rose Glen, like some of those that kind of have those, it does seem like science outpaces some of the other subject areas. So I think there's something that we're doing right with science. And probably to your point that we're spending more time on it, but having a resource that can get the kids at the right grade level and meet them where they are, I think is going to be even better. So.
And
I would
one of
also
the things
just
that I'm
share-
really excited about is it's going to provide more opportunity for even more hands-on. It won't take over or eliminate us continuing on the good pattern that we're with our social studies. Both our social studies and science align so well with our literacy curriculum, and we're still going to get to continue students having the amazing opportunities through our environmental ed program and planetarium. So these do continue to align with those, which I think is a bright spot in Waukesha that our kids have right here, that they're able to access that and to continue to grow in their science.
I was just going to add that another way we really look at what are the good practices that we want to see all over that hasn't been really talked about yet is our curriculum walks. And so in each area, there are curriculum walks, and then there's debrief and sharing of what was working well, what did we see, what are some of our next steps for any professional development. So that's always ongoing, but that's a big part of the work that is done to share and just an overall calibration across the system.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So shifting back to high school and AP Social Studies.
Okay, so we are here with our third and final AP presentation. I have invited Mr. Kyle Hoying from Waukesha West High School to present with me because Ms. Reynolds could not be here tonight, and I needed someone who could help with the very detailed expertise of someone who's teaching AP US History and knows all the things social studies. Again, this will be a little different in the fact that we are not asking to renew the current text, and we did look at several texts. And their textbook is as well pretty old, like 2015 or older, and even, I think at the time that they did that, each building could have adopted their own, so I'm not even sure that they're all on the same text, to be honest, with the last 10 years. Again, we'll just kind of skip through those first couple, the principles of AP and what AP is, and go right to the 5-year AP data for AP US History. I did also look up our enrollment for this year, And I am very happy to say that this year we have 283 students enrolled in AP US History, so quite an increase from last year. Again, pretty good pass rates. You will notice our social studies on average, our social studies AP courses do have higher passing rates than other content areas. We think that is really due to the fact that we have a really strong alignment, that freshmen can start taking AP Human Geo, and then 10th graders take AP World History, and then into 11th grade AP US History, and how very similar the skills are across the three, and that they just build on that sequence. So our enrollment is going up a little bit on that, and you can see kind of a, I don't know if that's a COVID jump from 22, 20, to 23, 24, but it looks like that was a nice jump in passing rate. So digging back a little bit, the course was first offered here in SDW in about 2009. And then there was an implementation of the new framework, I think in 2014 when it was written, and we adopted it with the new current textbook in 2015. 2 years ago, there were a few updates made to the APUSH rubric. They did a little bit of a revision then, but nothing major to the curriculum, did not renew a new resource. And there are some changes that Mr. Hoyne can talk to tonight as well. And then, like all of them, they are now online tests.
Yes, so
Press your button.
thanks. I'm learning here. So I'll just speak a little bit to those changes that Laura hinted at, and I think in some ways this, for AP US History, mirrors some of the changes that showed up in AP Statistics earlier in terms of hoping to create a curriculum for students from the College Board's perspective that is more achievable and attainable, and earning points for skills on those fronts. So the changes were not to content or curriculum, they were to the writing portions of the exam, and really just to how students can earn the evidence and analysis points on those long form writing pieces. And so for the DBQ, students before, in order to earn the evidence points, needed to use 6 out of the 7 documents. That has been revised. Students now need to accurately use 4 of the 7 documents, which is certainly more achievable and attainable, and allows teachers to do a little bit more work in making sure that we're focused on that front. In terms of analysis and reasoning, for sourcing, students now need to do 2 documents as opposed to 3, and then both the DBQ or document-based question and the LEQ or long essay question have had complexity points in the past. It is now easier to earn that complexity point on a DBQ. There's a variety of sort of fronts that students can take to get there, including using all the documents, sourcing for documents, and exploring alternate perspectives. For the long essay question, the complexity or the nuanced argument point is no longer required for students on that rubric.
And in contrast to statistics, where statistics went down in the number of units, U.S. history is staying the same, 9 units that are chronological periods from like the 1400s to present day, but they do still have 9 units. So the process that Amy Auntie Reynolds started with this team took place actually last year about this time. We knew that this needed an update and a renewal. So they did begin to look at several different texts. They really compiled a list of texts, what they wanted in a textbook. You can see accessibility for all, interactive and engaging for students, alignment to the College Board. Mr. Hoyne can actually speak to a little more about that. But then we weren't really able to get texts until this year to actually look at. So if you can speak to the process a little more.
Yeah, and so from that spring series of meetings with the AP US History teachers, I'm looking for those fundamental things that we would hope to be true and hope to find in a text. In fall of this past year, fall of 2025, teachers were able to access the digital and print sources for 2 resources, the BFW America's History for the AP course, I should say, a series of these sources. So BFW is America History for the AP course, Fabric of a Nation, the McGraw-Hill text, AP American History, and the Unfinished Nation.
So each of these publishers had two.
Had two, correct. Thank you. And
So 4 total.
4 total. And teachers were able to spend a little bit of time looking through those resources, both the digital and print versions. And then in winter, here at our Winter Institute, we as a teacher team across the schools met with, I should say, before the Winter Institute, we met with implementation specialists. So we met with publishers, we met with the folks who would introduce us to and walk us through the digital resources from both companies for the textbooks and to review the textbook options. Then at our Winter Institute, we came together and we made a determination on a recommendation that we would make tonight. And ultimately, we had kind of boiled it down to 2 texts that we liked from those 4. We had looked at the BFW Fabric of a Nation, and we had identified a lot of strengths with that textbook, including its alignment with the AP Core CED, its digital resource opportunities, and its ability to have practice exams and formative checks for students. We also liked McGraw-Hill's Unfinished Nation, another text that aligns closely with the AP CED. And ultimately then our recommendation for tonight is going to be the Fabric of a Nation. And a few reasons why we had ultimately settled on that as a team. We had first and foremost identified that this text, Fabric of a Nation, is long, but it is very organized and it's very specifically chunked by module and learning target that is in alignment with the AP Core CED. We said that this textbook, unlike our old textbook, which is in many ways too narrative from 10 plus years ago, you're often hunting in that textbook for alignment with how the course is currently structured, for information that would be able to be in alignment with how the course is organized. This text does not leave that up to chance. It is very structured. And then a variety of other strong, we think, features, including AP exam tips for students, study tips, bolded vocabulary, practice questions, a digital toolbox for students, an incremental series of writing workshops for students that work on skills both for short form and long form writing, argumentation. There are contextualization components for each of the chapters, which is an AP skill in and of itself in student writing, and it allows students to see and practice that as they're going throughout the course. And so we think that this text offers a lot of really useful and structured content in alignment with the course, and we hope that this will also, if we go to the next slide, be able, yeah, please.
Yeah, can I just add one
Yeah.
thing? Is one thing that I had heard from the teachers was, Kylie just mentioned it a little bit, how their old text was narrative. They said it kind of felt like reading stories, and the teacher said this text felt much more AP, like an AP or a college level text. I don't know how you would describe, how else you would describe it, but.
Yeah, and I may even use an example in that if you had a unit in AP US History, and that unit had a series of learning targets that in the old textbook, you would have to be looking through a chapter to identify where those learning targets were covered in their content. And unlike the new textbook in which that is very apparent, it is structured by learning target, by module, allowing you to go to 1.1, to 1.2, to 1.3 in direct alignment with the course. And that is very, I think, a very useful feature for both student and teacher when you're teaching to the class. And I think Laura had said earlier, a lot of the BFW textbooks are in alignment specifically with that CED for each class, and that is true here as well. And so the hope is that this textbook, in that alignment, along with the use of AP Classroom, gives teachers all that they would need. There's no need for supplemental materials or going outside for additional content. You have the course material in the textbook, and then we use AP Classroom for an assortment of quizzes, tests, practice questions that are in alignment with College Board, writing prompts and rubrics, thesis building, contextualization practice, evidence and analysis as well. And so we're hopeful that those tools would work in conjunction with one another. This slide, and you've heard it a couple times, is a unit at a glance. This is pulled from the core CED for AP US History. And so there are one of those for each of the 9 units from 1491 through the present. It goes over each of the learning targets. It talks about one of the historical reasoning skills, so causation, compare and contrast, changing continuity over time. Those skills are supporting student writing and argumentation and reasoning throughout the years. There's also some suggested skills, sample instructional activities, and essential knowledge. So these would be the things that the course would cover. Our goal then would be to come back in May, having aligned our teacher work with these core CEDs for syllabus and our course outline.
So similar to the other two presentations, work that still needs to be done, you can see the quantity of information is that text. There's just no way they would be able to cover all of that, even in the year's time. So they do have to work as a team to what's covered. The nice thing that College Board does is that they tell you what percent of the text is for each unit. So like the first unit and the last unit, what's 4%, 4 to 6% of the test would cover it. So obviously those are not areas that they'd spend a lot of time on, and they would have to work out that as a team. We'd have to look at numbers and final costs for both digital and physical texts. So we can open up for questions.
I just have one clarifying question, then I'll send it to you. Just on the test, on the performance on the test. It's my understanding that the test, and if you said this, I apologize, but the scoring on the test changed in 2024. So students, the average passing rate was something like 55 to 60%, and then it changed to closer to 75%. So it wasn't something that we were doing per se in the district, but it might have also been because enrollment was kind of dropping because it was perceived to be a really difficult test, and then students weren't getting the college credit for it. So was it just the scoring that changed on the test, or was there something that changed in how it was designed and administered in 2024?
From what I'm aware of, it was just the scoring, that they did change how points were allotted from the rubric.
Okay. So it looks like we're at or above
Yes.
the national average for
Yes.
that. But I guess I have questions about how much room for improvement there is with all of that, but I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to clarify that because I think,
That's a good point.
yeah. Okay. Gary?
Just in looking at the process that you guys went through, can you just outline for me, like the first requirement was accessibility for all. Can you help me understand what we're getting at? I mean, we're providing the education, and so why is that a requirement?
I think from an accessibility perspective, we were framing that as text and course materials that would be most suited to support student learning and success on the exam. And so our old textbook in many ways was too long and too cumbersome and too narrative driven. And so I think you had the access to text in terms of, is it structured, supported, organized for student learning? And then I think the other accessibility component was the additional access of online materials that come with a more modern textbook. And so the access to ebooks, the access to formative practice aligned with those pieces in a digital toolbox as well.
In addition, I think to access to AP-style questions. Like this textbook has exact multiple choice questions and writing prompts, so they have access to it. They also have a digital platform called Achieve that aligns to the AP classroom as well, same kind of practices.
No, and that aligns to what we've been doing with all these, with the content between a textbook and then a digital and all of those pieces. My next comment is a very common part that I've said across, I think, Laura, you'll be used to this at this point, but the AP College Board, are we teaching them to pass a test, or are we teaching them to learn? And in this case, when I hear that we're talking about a history book that is giving a narrative versus what I would refer to this as Cliff Notes. And the reason that is relevant is I go through and I look at certain big things that are hot topics in my lifetime that occurred, whether it was 9/11, whether it was COVID, whether it was, and the amount of time given to that, considering the significance on it, not only was it very, very short, the punchline, I think, or the mark, it makes me sad. It makes me sad that we're not teaching the relevance of some of these events, and so that is my question. And it's not for you necessarily to answer, but it's we're creating this college board and we're aligning. I agree with the book aligns very well for exams and preparation and teacher support. But if I'm teaching my kids just to pass a test, just to get the rewards for that, and they're not learning the true history and the depth of the good, the bad, and all of that, I have such a hard time as to what are we doing?
So can I start to respond to that, and then Kyle's going to
Oh,
have to
yes.
jump in with the exact skills? So I think, remember I said, this goes from 1400s to present, right? So it is impossible to give everything its due diligence. What AP, I believe, does well is it frames these history courses, world history and US history similarly, around skills. And it's skills first and foremost, content second. And with those skills, they talk about causation of major events. They talk about change over time of specific events. And then they weave in themes that go across all 9 units, so all 9 time periods. So I think that is their focus, is yes, we're teaching kids to think, we're teaching kids to make historical connections and historical reasoning, but not covering anything, I don't think, any content. I mean, we were just talking about how it's impossible to cover all this content until they go to college and can take a 1950s to the present, right, or something like that.
Yeah, and I would echo what Laura said and share that frustration. I think a lot of times teachers are finding that because of the content demands of an AP or College Board class, you are finding that the time spent on particular things does move quickly. But I would say the textbook that we've used or have been using from 2015 is over 1,000 pages. This current textbook, the one we're recommending, is also, I think, over 1,000 pages. And so it is not Cliff Notes in the way that it compromises the factual accounting of history. I think what it does, though, is it removes some of the, and I think a lot of the things that people love about history, but from the textbook perspective, some of the storytelling of the author, and instead presents the information. And then that content is the toolbox or is used in the toolbox of the classroom for the historical thinking skills. So students' opportunities to go in depth in causation, in chronological thinking and reasoning, in source analysis, in meaning, in changing continuity, in similarity and in contrast, in contextualization. I think that's the work that is done in class. The content is the vehicle of that, but we hope that we still provide opportunity for students to be doing that what you're describing as that historical thinking and living and experiencing. And so I think that the
that's
textbook offers that opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, that was a lot of my concern too, and I get, the restraints that you have working with an AP class, especially something like AP US History, where there's so much to cover and they can ask you anything from the course of history on this exam, and you have to try to figure out which things you want to prioritize. So understanding those time constraints is important, but looking at it, I mean, when 9/11 is essentially just a paragraph in a 1,000-page plus book or 1,000+ page book. Like, to me, that seems like, okay, we're trying to cover a bunch of things so we can say that we talked about this, but we're not really getting into the actual meat of the history and delving into those conversations. And maybe those conversations happen organically in the class outside of the book. I'm sure they do, but I guess that was not just specific to this textbook, but when we were looking at any AP resource, what's the number one priority that we're looking for in a textbook? Is it preparation for the AP exam, or is it teaching kids about history or whatever subject.
Yeah, I think it is building skills in the kids, in the students, so they can read about history and make all those connections on their own.
Yeah, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. I think it's just, thinking about what the purpose of the exam is and what the end goal of what these courses are designed to do. I agree. I think in terms of just the layout and organization of the text, and I knew if I wanted to go and find the section on 9/11, it was going to be at the back of the book because it was chronologically, it was very sequenced, and I liked a lot of the AP exam tip resources that are in there. I think that was like, if that's the goal of this textbook, to offer opportunities for kids to engage with the questions that they're going to be expected to answer on an AP exam, I think it accomplishes that. If the goal of the textbook is to really give them a lot of background on U.S. history, I think it falls short in some areas, but it all depends on what we're understanding the goal is.
Mr. Zenobia.
Yes, thank you. So in your presentation of the 4 that you had reviewed, you mentioned that this book had aligned as closely with the test, really, the structure of it. And it just kind of made me recall, I think it was 24. I looked back to try to find it. We had an AP government text, and it was actually the same publisher. And we didn't like the textbook so much at the time. It had some issues, but the presentation was that it did such a great job out of what we were reviewing to align with the test. That was why we, as this committee, kind of said, well, given the syllabus and what we're going to see taught, we went along with it because it prepared the students for the course, but also for the test. And it kind of sounds like this book, and I don't have any major issues with the book, but it sounds like that's kind of the same thing we're going with here, correct? That it really does kind of help the student pass a test, which is important. And to Dr. Piasek's earlier point, I would like to see everyone take the test. I guess I don't understand why we don't kind of make them do that, but that's another point. So, but I think that's important. It is, obviously, we're here to educate, but if you're going to do the AP exam, you should also be prepared to, take the exam if you're going to take the course. So, and you recall that, correct? So.
Yeah, and just, you're completely correct in your memory of AP Government. This is all reminding me very much of that process and of that text. And similarly to AP Psych too. Last year we did AP Psych, it was BFW, it was kind of similar format and, content things too. And I think AP Human Geo is BFW as well. So it is, again, it's a very appealing book for our teachers, the layout and the structure.
Mr. Brooks.
I guess this is kind of a little bit more of an open-ended question, but going back to Dr. Piasek's point about the changes to the rubric and how that correlates to the significant jump in the passage rate, looking at the 5-year AP data, we go from 2022, 2023, 51.8% passage rate to, then we get the changes to the rubric, and now we jump up to 82%. That's a huge swing in students who are passing, and so I guess, can you kind of walk me through again what the changes to the rubric are to your recollection? Because I look at that and it makes me wonder, are we making so many changes to the rubric to the point where we're kind of devaluing the actual exam if all of a sudden we're seeing a 30%, clearly there's either the old test was way too hard or this one's way too easy, and we're trying to find that middle ground, but that jump of 30% of students who are now passing was a lot to me.
I think they just lowered the passing score. No?
Right.
That I'm not sure of. But one thing I guess I can speak to on that point. So I don't know how much of this is because we've College Board has attempted to make the points more achievable for students in response to students not having earned them. So I don't know if the test had been, and I know AP Stats had sort of evidence of they went and looked and it wasn't in alignment with a semester-long statistics course. I don't know if similar research was done for AP US History, but certainly the ability to earn the points is easier for students. I think that is also, though, I think it also invites and provides teachers and students more opportunity to focus. So rather than doing a bunch of things, at surface level, that they are not only having more access to the points, but then are able to take, for example, four documents on a document-based question and really dive into the skill of using them, supporting their understanding of the document, rather than feeling rushed to get to 6 or 7. So I'm hoping that it is a combination not only of making it easier, but also then allowing students and teachers to do the work of how do you source documents, how do you use them, and hopefully that the higher pass rate is a combination of those things, that students are better at the skills when it is more reasonable to be, and also it is easier for students to earn better scores.
Thank you for that, because we had the same conversation with the statistics course where they're kind of tweaking some of the things and decreasing the number of sections that are in there. And as long as, if the goal is to make it so that you can actually delve into the content more and cover, really specifically focus on certain things and certain skills that are valuable, I think that's generally a positive thing. If the goal is just, we want to make it easier for people to pass the test, I don't know if that's accomplishing the goal that we want, but if it truly is allowing more flexibility for teachers to really dive into the curriculum and have those deeper conversations about the skills that we're trying to teach them within the context of an AP class, I think that's important, but I appreciate the background on that.
So I'm gonna be honest, I don't love this book. I struggled with the layout of it. I struggled with its readability. I'm not a high school student and I'm not a high school AP history teacher. So your enthusiasm is reassuring to me because you're the one who has to present the material in a way that the students can consume it and learn it and reapply it. And that matters more to me than whether I'm able to digest. And I did not read this one cover to cover because I just had a hard time with it. And I think the thing that's in the back of my mind, and I, kind of looking at the process that you all go through to down select to one that you're recommending to us, is that maybe in the past you would have brought 3 and said, we're doing all these pilots. And we agree that we don't want to overwhelm people with pilots. And so to some degree, we have to trust your judgment on what's the best resource that you think you can deliver the curriculum with. When you got to the point of, is the McGraw-Hill or is it this particular book, was it close or was it kind of this is by far the better resource that we need to go with? Because it makes me wonder, if I looked at the two side by side, would I come to the same conclusion or would I be more comfortable with what you're saying? Because there's a lot here, and I think we've all kind of maybe sensed the same thing. There's snippets of things that just seem disconnected, and I'm having teenagers around a lot. I get that they kind of think like that sometimes, but how do we create that enthusiasm that I'm sensing from you, and what does a classroom environment look like? Because I'm also hearing in particular with AP US History that a lot of supplementary resources are being used, and maybe that's a problem with the current resource that we have. But that's other concern for me. So if the book is not palatable to the students and we're bringing in other resources, that doesn't solve anything either. So I guess that's a loaded series of questions, but I feel like I'm missing something because I don't know how much better this one was than the McGraw-Hill book.
So I think that there was healthy debate among the resources, and so I don't think it was one book, far and away was considered unanimously. There was debate among the team. There's 3 AP US History teachers that have been a part of these discussions. one at each school, and ultimately it was decided that this resource offered advantages that we felt supported student learning, but there was debate, and it was close. I think that there were times when the team wrestled with each of the two. I would just say for the McGraw-Hill text in particular, that text, I think, in many ways, is more pared down in its content. In some ways, that benefits students in terms of accessibility of text and reading. I think it also, though, particularly for teachers teaching this who are teaching it, for the first time or in the first years of teaching it, I think it invites or stresses or brings about the possibility of needing supplementary resources to facilitate the goal of sort of full content alignment with the CED. This text, again, is long. It is complicated, I think, in many ways. The current text, I think, it offers it's similar challenges that you're describing to students. And this text, in its organization, its bolded vocabulary, its alignment and skills, I think, would support student learning in the classroom in a way that the current textbook doesn't.
Yeah, actually, Kyle just said what I was going to say is I think they liked both texts, to be honest. And so if they were told they had to use the other text, I think that they would do a very good job with that as well. But one of the things they didn't like about the other text or said that was you used the words pared down, though we have been using the word drive-by. It's like a drive-by even more so than this text was.
So more surface level. Can you tell me a little bit about the instructor resources and the quality of those? Because that would be valuable, right, for pacing in the classroom and you having the resources that can like kind of get from start to finish, one versus the other.
Yeah, I think both texts offer a digital toolbox, and so the McGraw-Hill, the Unfinished Nation, did offer a smart book. It did offer an ebook. It did offer opportunities for teachers to assign particular parts of the text, to do formative checks in the digital toolbox. This Fabric of a Nation text also does that, and we actually saw this long but very organized text as an opportunity in our future teacher work to use that ebook and to use the physical text and to narrow, to specify, to reduce, to make decisions on when and how we read and how we assign and how we assess. And so I think that the digital toolbox for Fabric of a Nation was very much one that we liked as well, the one that we're talking about tonight.
I know Amy and I talked a little bit about the other text, that they have a smart book, which it's like a digital journal for the students to do a lot of their work in, and feeling that was an unnecessary tool that we would have ended up paying for because we want them working in AP classroom.
So the last point for me is like that, so the number of students taking this class is going down, right? The interest?
This year we have 283 enrolled in
I'd
it.
say that, yeah. So
Right,
that
let
was
me,
the
let me
jump.
double check my numbers. Yeah, this year, so 25, 26, we have 283 enrolled currently.
Yeah, that's a big jump. Yeah, I think I already alluded to that with the scoring changes because it was kind of becoming less appealing to kids because they weren't doing well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, other questions? I mean, I'm not, just kind of listening to where people were at on this, I think pretty neutral. So, I guess the next step would, like everything else, would be to look at the full proposal less enthusiastically than maybe some of the other resources that we've talked about. So if there was any internal debate about one versus the other, and it was close, maybe that's worth further discussion by your committee, but I'm not advocating that we go back to the multiple pilots and, but for me, okay, maybe the other book isn't as good, and we just move forward with this one. But it has to be something that our instructors, our educators are like, I'm excited about getting this new resource, and I'm expecting that this is going to work great in the classroom. And then
Yeah,
we're
and
going to trust your expertise on this, but well, I'm just saying for myself, I can't speak for the rest of the committee, but if there are concerns, I think people need to be very clear about that now before we let them move forward with this book. So,
yeah, and based on the lack of quality of the text that they're using right now, I think they're really excited to get something that is so complete.
okay. Eric?
Yeah, I would agree with Dr. Piasek. Like, I wasn't crazy about the textbook itself, but not knowing what the other one looks like, I don't have a comparison. But I think if you can, especially when when you come back next time with the the full course layout and everything, I think that can help kind of frame where and why this textbook is more helpful for how you want to lay out the course. But if we have this other textbook and it was a pretty close call, and people don't seem to have, they like this one more than the other one, but they were both pretty close, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing other consideration for the other one too, or seeing some insights into what that would look like, because like I said, I wasn't crazy about this, but if it's better than the other one and it's going to be easier for you and your team to implement, then I think that's worth considering.
So this is going to be slightly adjacent to this topic, but I think now's a good time to speak to it. Because our high school, and this is 10th grade, so I recognize that APUSH is an 11th grade thing. But our 10th grade social studies, from a forward perspective, is a significant drop off from our 4th and 8th grade. So something is happening in our sequencing that I think is because, in many cases, US is offered sophomore year and not junior year. But I also appreciate that world is kind of a beast, and to put that in the freshman year is a big thing. So we kind of ease people in with human geography. But what I'm sensing is that maybe human geography plus world is not getting our 10th graders where maybe we need them to be from a social studies perspective, or maybe this is a middle school thing that we need to address, because something is happening where our elementary social studies is getting better and our 8th grade and 10th grade social studies is just continuously getting worse. This is not a AP US history problem, but I think it might be a gap in the civics and US history and government components that might be reflected in the standards, although I'm going to admit that I'm not as well versed on the 10th grade forward standards. But I think we should look at that from a sequencing perspective. It looks like you wanted to offer some thoughts about that, but
I'm so sorry.
no, but if you do, I'm open to them. And I want to clarify, like, again, this is not teaching to a test, but I'm trying to understand what we're missing in that transition, that I'm looking at 80% pass rates on the AP US history test, but 40% proficiency in 10th grade social studies. Now, I get that the kids who are probably signing up for AP US history are meeting the 10th grade proficiency, but something's not right. Like, there's something's not adding up in our secondary social studies. So I'm not sure what that is.
Well, I am going to let Kyle give his opinion about this, because he is a master teacher of all three of those classes: Human Geo, World History, and he's taught AP World History and now AP US History. So I would like your thoughts on that, and then I maybe have one thing to add.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have a ton of wisdom here. Having taught, I guess, grade level human geography, AP World History, and AP US History, I do think that there are different demographics of students that would be offering in, as you said, data for AP pass rates versus forward exam data. I also do think that over the past few years, there has been more deliberate attempted alignment and work to align skills from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year, and perhaps ways that hadn't been true in the past. And so types of writing and organization of writing and argumentation and skills that again, different content, but skill translation from year to year. I'm not sure I can speak to the data gap more than that, but I can defer to Laura.
I think it's a really good question, and I think I've been thinking about it a lot. And I do think part of the answer lies in the middle school, and part of the answer probably lies at the high school. What I would say, though, and I'm in a lot of these classrooms and have been in the human geo classrooms for 15 years, is in ninth grade human geo, I would say now across the board at all three of our high schools, our kids are reading and writing more than they are in any other class that I see. So I know that there are strong skills going on in ninth grade human geo. And then I see the same things happening in our AP World History and our AP US History courses. I do question, because like I started this saying that our AP Social Studies are some of our highest pass rates. I do question how much kids' effort is going to that forward exam. It comes out the same time that they're doing the ACT, the pre-ACT testing. It's short, it's really easy to jump through. I was the assessment coordinator at West for years. We did everything we could to try to get those kids to take that seriously. I do think that is also part of the problem.
Yeah. No, I respect that, and I appreciate that you've thought about it, because
Oh.
it's perplexing, because
talked about it for years, yeah.
It doesn't add up with some of our, and I fully agree that when you can't really look at AP pass rates and then talk about overall proficiency, but there's subsets of those groups that, so I think we're good at social studies instruction. It's just not, it's somehow we're missing that in what we're seeing. And I have seen other high schools that are doing the world, US, government, and then elective, right? So they're getting the three requirements out of the way, but I also know that world thing, it's a lot. And I understand our philosophy for starting with human geo, but I see this AP US that's getting bumped to junior year, and I think it might be more relevant or accessible in a different sequence, but I don't know what the answer is to that. I just think that everybody should have to take the test, so.
Separate topic, okay.
That would help us a lot, I think, really understand, like, who is opting out of the test? And is it because it's just not valuable to you, or is it because you're not doing well in the class? And if we're looking at overall performance and we're saying this is the expectation, if you're going to enroll in a college level course and your goal is to get credit for it and not just a weighted grade, you should take it. But we're obviously doing well on APUS, so I guess I've said a lot. I think we're being pretty transparent here that we're going to rely on your expertise, because we don't know what we don't know about what we're not choosing.
I would just add, I really just appreciate the conversation, from all different angles. I think one of our pieces too is when we come forward with this new process, as far as when it is a new resource, we can adjust so that we're going into more detail as we, narrowed it down, the resources. Obviously, in elementary science, it was a little bit different, but we can emphasize that as we move forward, just as part of our overall revision to our process, just so that you guys have a bigger, clearer picture of all those things leading into the narrowing of the text.
Okay, thank you for everything, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, do we want to add on some other AP classes that we could talk about tonight?
No, and I really want to thank the team of teachers and the coordinators and Laura. I mean, now that we've pulled out the AP courses from the regular curriculum review of subject matter, this is what we're getting. We're able to go in depth with each class and make sure that we have really good or the best resources, to support teachers and student learning. So I'm just appreciative of all the teams to get us this far and your support as well.
Thank you. That ends all of our official business for tonight. I would maybe just add, we're not going to meet in April, as Thomas also mentioned, for student services. I don't know how packed our May agenda is going to be, but we're getting to the end of the AP refresh with business and entrepreneurship being that add-on. I think it would be good timing, maybe before the end of the calendar year, especially as students I know have chosen classes and stuff. Could we do like a recap of our AP offering holistically? And if it's May or June, I don't know that matters, but I think that looking at these pass rates is really helpful. Looking at the enrollment trends is really helpful. So kind of these tables that Mrs. Ryan shared on all the different courses, if we could maybe look at I'm sure there's some work that went into pulling those, but if we could look at those across the board, that would be super helpful.
Yeah, that would not be a problem. I think we just have to figure out which one of the next meetings. I would say that in Laura's role in summer or in spring, when the data comes back, she is going through that
Yeah.
to a whole nother level. And so a summary will be a great next step for us to bring forward.
That is a good point, because maybe when those test scores become available, although we don't necessarily need to wait for that. I know that's always a big day at our house.
We can talk, Laura and I will talk about it and just figure out like the best timing. It does take some time though, once we get the information, so maybe we present something and then add on the most recent, or we'll figure something out.
Okay. I just think now that we're kind of in it, might be a good time to talk about that. And then, as I mentioned, and Dr. Siebert explained in the Student Services Committee, so our next meeting is Tuesday, May 5th. And that's because of the way the calendar stacks up for April. If we move backwards, we hit spring break, and if we move forwards, we kind of hit the whole election cycle and stuff. So we will just move teaching and learning and student services to skip April and move into May. Are there any recommendations other than what I asked for future meetings? Okay. Seeing none, that adjourns our business for tonight. See you in May.